What is up, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well today. We are back with another live stream over here on Before the Billions. Hope you guys are doing well today. So today we're going to be discussing why is it that so many people on social media, YouTube, TikTok, on Twitter, why do they say to lie on your resume? We covered this topic before in a previous live stream that I will have at the top right corner of the video. So that way you guys are able to go back to a previous live stream for the value that it may provide you. And the name of the video is Tech Bros versus the Manosphere. So if you guys have not seen that video, please go back and check it out. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to everybody who's watching the live stream right now, and then everybody who is watching the replay. I really do appreciate every single one of you guys. Okay, so just like with my last live stream where I was discussing why do people lie about the tech industry, I want to talk about why is it that people want you to lie on your resume so much. I see it to where I've seen like many different videos where they say, go and, apply for the position, even if you don't have the experience. And then you may be picked out of those people because you may just so happen to be the best one out of the few applicants that they may apply. So there's a lot that goes into people who are trying to get these positions, right? So especially in the tech industry, you have people who are in tech as a software engineer, data engineer, and they went through college. They went through a 4-year degree, or maybe they went through a boot camp. They have some people who did that, or self-taught. And because you see these success stories with people who did not go to college, they try to downplay the importance of it. They try to say, oh, well, going to a boot camp is just better than going to college, which is not really true. In actuality, what is that as long as you're able to get the position that you're trying to get, that is the end result. So it's not better or worse, depending on whatever perspective that you may have. In my own opinion, I think that college is better, simply because you're able to get a lot more experience outside of just getting a job. Because you have 4 years, especially when you're college age, to be able to then meet new friends, make more connections, go to the gym. There's a lot of different things and benefits that come with going to college outside of just getting the degree, which they kind of downplay as the only thing that matters. So going back to why they want you to lie so much is because they'll make it sound as if you are sitting there starving on the side of the road, on the street, and you are not able to take care of yourself. So you had to sit there and lie in order to be able to get a higher paying position. Well, the thing is that you don't really need to lie. And if you do lie, it has to be something that will not affect your employment. So if they were to catch it, you're not going to be sitting up there trying to explain it away. The only reasons why it will be okay to not tell the full truth is if maybe you worked for a company before, let's say, but as a contractor. So I worked for a specific company, and then I was a contractor for that company working through a third-party company. I also heard this from Life After Layoff, so please go ahead and give his video a watch as well after this video. So Life After Layoff also said this as well, is that when you are a contractor working for a third-party company for a particular client of theirs, then it is okay to just say that you work for that particular client because, hey, I work here every single day. This is the only client. I'm not going to multiple different contracts or anything like that. I only work here. Then you can probably say, okay, I worked here, and put that on your resume. But if you go out there and you say that you work for a company you never did, straight up lie. Don't do that. And then if you are to say, hey, I was working in this position as a software engineer, but then you go in there and you say, okay, well, I was a Python software engineer. You change in the title of it per se, but it's not really a lie because the language that you use was also Python. So you're not lying in that sense. You're more so just changing your resume to tailor it to a particular position. All right, so I wanted to do this live stream simply because I have a tweet that I saw, and it is pretty much going viral right now, and I'm going to share my screen in a second. So let's do this. Let me share my screen with you guys so that way you can see. All right, so here we have, this is Twitter right here. And this is the tweet that is going viral right now. It says, all my girls are finesse queens. Imagine making $65,000 plus extra in salary, all because you put that you have a little funky degree on your resume and you made that degree in Canva or Adobe. I'm screaming. And then she says, meanwhile, having an actual degree doesn't make you more qualified than anyone because they train everyone the same way. Having a degree is for the optics because most people don't retain any of their college education for the jobs they end up getting regardless of relevancy. Okay. Somebody then commented and said, my thing is, do they check? One of my friends definitely lied and she is making bread. And then she doubles down on it and says, now you just answered your own question, but I got receipts for you. And it says, maybe you remember I failed my bachelor's, put it on my resume anyway, and no one asked for any proof. Now in IT consulting, you did a little tutorial on how you did the logos on your resume, but I'm trying to, okay, so this is from a live stream. So it's a live stream that the person did, and somebody responded saying that they actually did follow the advice and lied on the resume, said, hey, I didn't even finish college, but I am still in an IT consulting position. All right, so let's go ahead and break this down a little bit before we go on to the next tweet that this person made. This is going viral right now. You can see it has 1.2 million views. It was just posted yesterday. So when they say, imagine making $65,000 plus extra dollars in salary, you're talking about, most likely you're talking about a high earning position in some sort of IT related field. So IT or tech related field. And then she says, by just putting that you have a little funky degree. And just like how I said earlier, they downplay degrees. You go through 4 years of college and then you have somebody say, oh, it's just a little funky degree, like it really doesn't matter, when in actuality a degree makes it so that way you are able to stand out well above the rest. So when somebody says this, it is something that just so, it pretty much is wild. It's just a wild statement to make, because there's a lot of people who have funky degrees, little funky degrees that she's downplaying, or degrees that she's downplaying, when in actuality it can help boost you within your own career, and then you'll be able to make so much more money legitimately. Right? So she doesn't say, hey, instead of going to college, maybe you go to a boot camp. She doesn't say it in this. She's saying just outright, you just lied. So that is one thing that I noticed about this. So let's see. Now let's go to the next few comments on this. And before I do that, let me check something right quick and make sure we have some people coming in. All right, cool. So shout out to everybody who is in the building right now on this live stream. Okay, so we have this. So anyone saying this didn't go to college, didn't do college correctly, right? I would probably say they probably didn't go to college at all if they say a little funky degree. Or they went to college for something that was a low paying position, right? You can't just sit up here and say, oh yeah, a little funky degree, and then it didn't help you in any way. So this says this. This is applied to international degrees too. I did 8 semesters and sometimes I wanted to fake it, but I'm scared they're going to make me do something extra. Now, somebody who is an international, somebody in whatever country this is the flag of Kenya. So this is a Kenyan person, international. They said they sent an investigator to Kenya and the UK for my dad's job. They are not going to play with you. Very true. If a company finds out you lied on your resume, they will fire you. There are services that check and many companies use them. Please just be honest. Exactly. Just tell the truth. If you don't have a degree, don't say that you do, because there's other options out there if you do not have a degree, right? And what makes it so bad is that there's a lot of companies who will pay for you to get a degree. All right, so let's move on to this second tweet that she says, meanwhile, having an actual degree, right? So that you have a little funky degree. Okay, so the little funky degree is a lie, and the actual degree is a degree that somebody actually spent 4 years getting. And it says, an actual degree doesn't make you more qualified. It quite literally does. So having a degree is a qualification, right? You are more qualified to discuss a specific topic if you have a degree in that specific topic, right? In that specific realm of IT or whatever else job that you're looking for. So imagine if your doctor said that he did not have a degree, right? He didn't even go to school for it. You have a therapist, didn't go to school for it. Imagine if you had somebody who was the CEO of a particular company, right? He didn't go to school. He didn't have any kind of qualifications. Then outside of like the people like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, who did get into college, very prestigious colleges, their companies just so happened to blow up and they needed to leave college before they got their degree. The only reason as to why they did not get their college degrees. So when people say, oh, well, look at Mark Zuckerberg and look at Bill Gates, they don't have degrees and they're CEOs, stuff like that. They are business people. They're very intelligent, and they could have gotten a degree if they wanted to. They had the money to pay for a degree, but they just so happened to have a business that was making them so much money that they did not want to finish getting their degree. All right. So it says having a degree is for the optics, because most people don't retain any of their college education. Absolute lie. When you say most people don't retain any of their college education, complete fabrication, because there's a lot of people who went to college for things and then they can remember because what they do directly correlates to what they do within their job. Now, this is not most people. Unless you went and got a degree in something that you're not doing, then I can understand you not remembering every single class. Like if you took a psych class, or if you took a critical thinking class or something like that, you may not remember everything or retain everything from that particular class, but you definitely will be able to remember things pertaining to your specialty, your industry that you're in. All right, so let's move on. And then she says, regardless of relevancy, right? So if you're a doctor, you don't remember anything from school, apparently. All right. All those years of school. Some people go to school for like 12 years. People got PhDs and stuff like that. And, oh, yeah, your degree is just not meaningful at all in her standpoint. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so this is the next tweet that she has. She says, people who rather see you beg on the street for spare change than see you lie to get a job so you don't get evicted are very sinister individuals. So then she is putting it back on us. She's putting it back on us and saying, oh, y'all are very sinister individuals, which doesn't make any sense at all. It says, anybody telling you what you can't do to get hired or shaming you for how you get hired is someone who strives to be an elitist. So let's break this down. So she is saying, she's bringing up this total thing of, oh, if you don't lie on your resume, you may get, you know, she's pretty much saying people who have to lie on their resumes are about to get on the street, going to be homeless if they don't lie on their resume. There's plenty of jobs that you can get without having to lie on your resume, and that you won't be evicted out on the street. So it doesn't really make much sense why she even bring this up, because you may have one or two people who their responsibilities or their income does not match up to their responsibilities or their bills. But in this case, it's not going to be everybody. There's a lot of people who do lie on their resumes. All right, so it says, anybody telling you what you can't do to get hired or shaming you for how you get hired is someone who strives to be an elitist. Not necessarily, because there's a lot of different opportunities for people who don't necessarily have a resume that matches with a particular degree. You may not have a degree in a particular skill set, but there are people who I work with and who a lot of other people work with in tech who do not have tech degrees. Right? So you don't necessarily need to have a tech degree, but you can't sit up here and lie and say that you do. Especially if you don't have a degree at all. That was actually a big thing. There's actually a video I'm going to play, and I want you guys to see what it is. Let's see. Let me go back to my screen right quick. Let me check to see who is all up in here. Hold on 1 second, y'all. And let me make sure I can, I'm going to drop the link to this video for this YouTube video. Give me 1 second, guys, as I do this. There we go. All right. So we have, I'm going to share my screen in 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second as I pull it up.
Told me something that was very, very.
All right. Okay, let's make it full screen. All right, so this video is titled "When Lying on Your Resume for IT Jobs Goes Wrong."
told me something that was very, very funny, like off camera, right? So I definitely want the audience to be able to understand this. You told me that, like, when you first came into tech, you was like, man, you start looking at some salaries, like, man, you know what? Forget this little thing. I'm going to go shoot for the moon, right?
Hey,
So, kind of
word
tell
up.
everybody what happened in that situation, right?
Hey man, we all want to put food in the microwave. We don't want to
Hmm.
cook it on the stove.
Right, right,
So
right.
so I got caught up in the hype, man. I was looking at those salaries like you mentioned, and I saw the DevOps. It was hot, man. It was fish grease. It was popping,
Hmm.
and man, it was everywhere. So, you know, you, it was aligning with networking. So I was kind of studying both at the same time. But after
Okay.
3 months of studying DevOps, I can do this. Lathering
Right.
it up, I feel like I can do this. So I'm not going to mention the company's name,
Yeah.
but I got the interview somehow, and it was a 3-person panel, and man, I put all the stuff that I was learning on my resume, not what I knew, but what I was learning. Oh man, they asked me. I learned a valuable lesson. Don't put anything on your resume that you can't speak to, because they asked
Right.
me every question about what I put on that resume, man. Hey, when I say
Hmm.
I was typing in Google, I was trying to Google it, man, but it just wasn't coming up, man. But early on, they understood that I didn't know, you know, what the ins and out of the job, and it was a
Right.
horrifying experience in the moment. But then, I just opened up to them, just became honest, like, hey guys, this stuff that I want to learn, but I don't necessarily know enough about it to speak on it today. And after that, it became more of a learning experience. Them saying, all right, so if you want to do this, if you want to become this, like, this is what you got to do. And no lie, man, one of the people, like, if you want to become this, this is what you got to do. The first thing is not lie on your resume.
Right. So let that be, and that's a good lesson out there for the audience, right? It's like, some of these jobs, you look at these job descriptions and they want the sun, the moon, and stars, but, at least align your skills, as closely as possible before, you apply. Because one thing that people don't realize is, like, a lot of these companies, they use this ATS tracking system. And then, like, when your resume goes through there, right, if your resume gets rejected, the next time that you apply, they'll be like, oh, we already rejected this cat one time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's very, very, you need to be very, very intentional about what you apply for.
All right, very, very true. That you do not want to sit there and lie on your resume. He brought up the ATS system, which a lot of companies use. Let me pull out the ATS system right here. So this is what it is. The applicant tracking systems are software tools used by employers to streamline the hiring process. They automatically scan and sort job applications based on specific criteria such as keyword skills and experience. All right, so before your resume even reaches a recruiter, they will definitely go through an ATS system, because people don't realize that you have so many applicants for a particular role. You will be sitting up here applying for all these different jobs on LinkedIn or Indeed, and they will not respond to you, simply because either you've been filtered out, or the company, a recruiter, a hiring manager, they didn't even go and look at those resumes yet. They may have had an internal person, which is one of the best ways to get another job, is internally within your own company. Um, I should say one of the lowest barriers to entry is an internal hire, because you're already within the system. Another thing is that if you are an external person, you want to be going on their company website as opposed to going on LinkedIn and Indeed, and applying for the job directly on the company website. Simply because it's on the company's website, they don't have to go through a third party and pull all that information in. And because LinkedIn and Indeed have it so easy to apply for so many jobs, they go through thousands of different applications within a day. So I know Google, let's see, I forgot exactly the amount of thousands of resumes that they get. How many resumes does Google receive? There we go. See? So it says, how many resumes does Google receive? Google hires roughly 20,000 people annually, but with over 3 million applications submitted to the company each year, they have a 0.67% acceptance rate. A lot of people want to work at Google. It actually became the standard for a lot of people to be able to get a position there. And let me do this. And since it is a position or a company that pays so well, has a great company culture, and then also they give you free food. You can pretty much sleep over there. They have a lot. I've actually been to the Google Atlanta offices, and it is in Midtown Atlanta. Very nice location. Have a bar downstairs. They have they have like games, so many different things, so many different reasons as to why people want to apply for Google. But you have over 3 million applications submitted. So that means that the competition is extremely stiff. If you're sitting up here applying for a position and you have, let's say within a pool for one position, you have 1,000 people within that pool, that means that if you sit up here and you lie and you do get the interview, and then you say, hey, I have such and such amount of experience, or you have a degree that you don't have, and then they're like, okay, you know what? We're going to go with you over all these 999 other people, and you lied through everything. Do you think that they will be happy that you lied or accepting of it? In this case, in that video that you guys saw with this guy, even the guy who interviewed him, he said, you know what? One of the things, if you really want to do this, you do not want to lie on your resume. You do not want to lie on your resume. Before I go on to the next video, I'm going to go ahead and say what's up to the chat right quick, so I can say what's up to the people. Let's see. All right, so we have, who we got up in the building? Yeah, Gabe A up in the building. Thank you so much, Gabe, for tuning in. Let me share the comment. All right, so we got Gabe A up in the building. Shout out to Gabe. He has won the #1 spot. Really do appreciate you for tuning in. She said, because he hears resumes. All right, so we got, he asks the question, how does she downplay something as a little funky degree when she failed to achieve one? Yeah, somebody with a resume would not say that. So we get shout out to Untitled, talking about Kenya. Shout out to Gray Pill Podcast. All right, Sammy Ivories. So Sammy Ivory says, in tech, I know C-suite, CISO, and CIO people that have related experience and high school diplomas with certs. No need to lie on your resume about college. Very true. I do know some people who have no degree and have a high-ranking position. I do know there are people with that. They just have so much experience. They got in at a time where they weren't really looking at resumes. They essentially got either really lucky and they had connections and opportunity, or they were able to just work their way in through some sort of loophole, or they had to go and do a whole bunch of stuff like getting active in the industry, in the community, going to networking events, asking people for recommendations, all kinds of different things in order for them to be able to get the position. You don't just get this position with nothing behind you. And then also you have people who kind of just got the hookup from maybe a family or a family member or a friend as well. So there's a lot of different ways that people with no degrees are able to get in. So and in this particular situation, he says I know C-suite executive people that have related experience, and they were able to get certs. Now, this doesn't work for every kind of cert. You can't just take a CISSP without actually going through and having experience. So you had to get the experience first in order to take certain certs. Shout out to Young Investor. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yep. Yeah, if you are Googling through the interview, then that means that you should be caught. All right, so shout out to everybody. And Ronan Unsung, thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back to the next video. All right, so this video, I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'll play like right here.
Your fault. And that's the thing with job gaps. The longer you have a gap, the harder it is to get a job because you've been out of the industry. You're out of touch. You're all washed up. Just by having a job gap, it implies laziness to the people that are hiring you. And now some of you have had experiences with people that don't care about job gaps. But for me and most people, they absolutely cared about the job gap. So should you lie about having a job gap? Should you just leave your last employer even though you don't work there as current on your resume? Well, here's a few scenarios that these HR people and people that scrutinize job gaps that maybe don't consider. You got let go without warning, and it's around the holidays when it happens. So you got let go early November. You won't be able to find a job if you get let go in early November, probably until early February. And you want to know why? Because of the holidays, and nobody's looking at resumes or emails or applications around the holidays because everyone is taking vacation and people are covering other people that are taking vacation and everyone's just swamped with work. That's not your fault, but you're probably going to have at least a 3-month job gap, which isn't that good. What about if you have a major medical procedure and you need to take care of yourself first and you just need time for recovery? What about if you have a family to take care of? What if your family gets sick? You know, I'd sure as hell take a job gap to be with my family for as long as I could. I wouldn't regret saying, oh, well, sorry, can't come to you in the hospital and come be with you and take care of you because this job gap on my resume is getting a lot longer here. The HR doesn't care. Jobs don't care about that. They only think that, oh, well, you've done something that clearly makes you unhireable because why else wouldn't you have a job by now? What about...
All right, so he has all of the... So this is, if you guys don't know, I do watch Joshua Fluke. I've been subscribed to him for many years now. And he is talking about lying on your resume, right? And he is an advocate for lying on your resume. And he brings up one use case, which is that you have a job gap, which does make your resume look bad because a company will look at it and just like how you said, say, okay, well, why isn't it that you haven't had a job? One thing I would say is probably just be honest with them. I had a family emergency or something like that. I had to take care of my family. Just like how he said. You know, and he is bringing up somebody who has experience because they had to have already had a job. But just like how I said earlier, you can get around a lot of people looking down on you if you have a network. So if you have a network, let's say you have connections through people who you used to work with, right? Because he's not talking about somebody who didn't have a job at all. He's talking about somebody who may have had a job before and they had some sort of thing happen to them, life happened to them, and then they don't have a job now. And then now they're looking for another position. Why is it that you are applying for a position with no help? You can very well be able to get another position if you have a job gap. There are plenty of people who have had a job gap of, let's say, 6 months or something. 6 months you didn't have a job. Or three to 6 months you didn't have a job, and now you're going up to a recruiter and they say, oh, well, why do you have a job gap? And you just let them know, like, hey, had such and such thing happen to me, but I was recommended this position by one of my close friends who I used to work with, who can then vouch for my abilities to be able to get this position. So I can't really let you slide with this one. Right now, if you just so happen to don't use LinkedIn, there's a lot of people who have positions on the LinkedIn, but they just don't update it because they don't go on there, which isn't lying. It's just that they have not updated their LinkedIn or their resume. But then if you then use your LinkedIn when you're trying to get another job, you might as well have gone ahead and updated it. So then that's when you will be lying. Let's skip ahead a little bit.
This is why I haven't been able to work, and you better put on an Oscar-worthy performance, okay? And Godspeed, because I hope that you can manage to find a decent human that actually believes you and understand that life happens. But in my experience, most people just say, oh, job gap, okay. It's like finding out that you were a criminal or something, and that like you've wronged 1,000 people just by them finding, yeah.
And then with this is a good pause, but with this, he is saying, oh, he almost making it sound like you're evil for having a job gap, or like the person who is trying to hire a position or fill a position is a bad person because they care that you didn't have a job for a certain period of time. So that is something that a lot of people are not able to explain away. But hey, let's go ahead and continue with this video. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit more.
So if you're honest and you don't check that box that says you can contact my last employer, that's going to make them think about some things. They're going to assume that you had issues with the last company that you worked at. They're going to think the worst. You won't get the time of day to explain yourself. They're just going to see that box went unchecked, and they're going to take your resume and your application, and they're just going to put that into the trash because they're just going to think that you're nothing but problems if you don't let them contact your last employer. So you realize this, and you check the box that says, oh yeah, of course you can contact my last employer. And like I said, they'll ask for the phone number, and what do? Do you give them the number to your last manager, the manager that hates your guts, the manager that always had problems with you, that always one-upped you, and that always was condescending to you? Do you give them the number to that manager, that guy that you know would never vouch for you a day in your life? Because technically that was your real manager. You don't have any other ones, so are you going to be honest? Are you going to give the phone number for that guy? Or do you call up your friend and you give them the details of your last job and you tell them, okay, dude, look, I'm in an interview right now. I really want this job. I told the company that you were my last manager. This is everything I did at my last job. His name was this. Be that guy. Well, what about if they ask specifics for the job? Well, usually they don't. They just ask what you did and how you interacted with people so they know that if you're a troublemaker or not. That's all this question is. I've done it the honest way and I've done it the dishonest way. And I can tell you one thing right now. Every time I was honest, someone interpreted my honesty and that something was wrong with me. And that I did something to harm the previous company or the previous employers or whatever it was. It was my fault. But it didn't matter.
All right, so he has this next point saying that, oh, can you contact my last employer? No, or yes. Or in this case, he says, if you say no, they will not hire you. If you say yes, and then you give your the phone number, you're going to give it to your friend. In this instance, you don't necessarily have to give your previous manager you don't have to give his or hers her phone number. You don't have to do that per se, but you can work with colleagues and have their phone numbers. This is why having social skills is a plus, especially within the tech industry. Because if you don't have the social skills to be able to have friends at your current employer that you can call up and say, hey, I need a favor hey, can you help me with getting a recommendation for a position? There are plenty of people who reach out to me for recommendations. They don't reach out to the previous manager. because a lot of the time the manager does not know exactly what you're doing to be able to speak to it. The funny thing is, so quick story, I was going through a interview process back in 2020, and I was trying to get a new position, and they asked, "Hey, do you have any references?" I gave the person 3 references. So 3 people I worked with before. One was my manager, and the other 2 were colleagues of mine that I had worked with. They gave me a phone call back. They said, "Hey, I spoke to your references, and none of them could really speak to exactly what you did on your job. Do you have any more references?" And I was sitting here befuddled. I said, "Okay, what is up if I give you my manager's phone number?" And then she comes up and says, "Oh, well, I spoke to your manager. He couldn't really tell me exactly what you used to do. Do you have any more phone numbers?" Then I was like, "Okay, well, I got 2 more." Gave her 2 more references. And see, that's the thing, is that I was able to speak with people enough to be able to connect with them, get their phone numbers, and then also reach out to them and ask them, "Hey, is it good for me to be able to use you as a reference?" They all said yes. So if you don't really need to lie on your resume, you don't need to have your manager specifically, if you did not have a good relationship with them, to be able to say that you worked at a position. But you can have friends who worked with you before who can speak to some things that you've done. Now, if you have nobody who liked you enough to be able to speak to your quality as a person or the quality of your work, then that's going to be an issue going forward, right? But yeah, so even in this instance, he says like the manager, he like pretty much just said like the manager is just the worst person in the world. Like, you will never speak to them ever again. I would just say don't use that particular person. Use somebody else who maybe have worked with you before, or another professional working in a similar industry or something like that who can kind of speak to your character. Right, so that is something that you can do. You can speak to your friends. But let's go ahead and continue on, because I want to get to this part.
Unlimited vacation is the classic meme. It's not actually unlimited. We all know that, right? Because if it was, why even work but like 1 day a month? So unless there's a minimum amount required that you have to take when you work at a job that has unlimited vacation, you want to know the real reason that it's unlimited vacation? It's because they don't have to pay you out 2 weeks vacation if you quit, because they never actually had a vacation plan. So if it's unlimited, why even work? Just work 4 hours once a month. Oh, well, we're going to have to talk to you. Well, you said unlimited, right? Why don't you just be transparent? Here's another example. Companies can tell you that you're going to get a yearly review, and they can say that full well knowing that they're about to go on a budget freeze and no one's getting a raise at all. But in the interview, they'll, "Oh, yeah, no, we have reviews for your performance every 6 months and every year, and then that's when we talk about our raises." And the guy interviewing you all the time knows that in like 3 weeks they're about to go on a budget freeze. So you're never going to get a raise. Companies can tell you whatever they want in the job interview and on the job description. If companies don't have to be 100% transparent with you, why do you have to be 100% transparent with them? Let's move on to the next section here. I want to talk about...
All right, so before he moves on to the next section, he has an adversarial relationship with corporate. That is what's going on here. So he, like, I can understand not putting your whole into a particular company. Completely can understand that, because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. If you do get let go or laid off or whatever it is, you don't want to sit up there and say, "Oh, well, this was my only income and I had to wait another 3 to 6 months to be able to get another job." You don't want that to happen. But my thing is that you don't have to look at companies in that way that they're always out to get you. They are more so they are going to be looking out for the benefit of the company. You're supposed to be looking out for the benefit of yourself, but you don't have to lie to a company because you could just get whatever skill that they're looking for and then fulfill the position. It's an agreement between you and the company. You are somebody who is to fulfill a particular need that the company has, and then they are supposed to then pay you for the value that you then give to the company. All right, so let me go ahead and give a shout out to all the people in the chat right quick before we move on to the next video. So shout out to Amethyst. Thank you so much for tuning in. She's by my grace. I agree. Ronan Unsung says, not a good idea to lie on your resume. For me, it's certs and experience. Shout out to the lead attorney up in the building. Says, salute, guys. Salute to you as well, lead attorney. Hope you're doing well. So got T Riddler says, evening before the billions. Evening to you as well. Joanna Washington says, I told my dad the same thing. It's best to lie on the resume. Okay, so Joanna says to lie on your resume. And then I want to say this is that you don't really need to lie. That was the thing, is that you don't really need to if you have connections, and then also and particularly we're talking about tech here. So there's a lot of people without degrees. There's a lot of people with job gaps. Every single thing that he said, like everybody has had a bad manager at one point. There's every single point that he said could be solved. So there's no real need to lie, and that's the reason why I'm making this video, because I had the tweet that's saying to lie on your resume just to get the job because you sitting out here homeless. When in actuality you don't need to sit there and lie about it. And then CT Riddler says, it's unfortunate. It seems you get further lying than telling the truth. You may get the job, but if you get let go, if you sit up here and get let go for lying, doesn't that burn the bridges that you could have had? Especially when companies are paying for you to go to college a lot of the time too. Well, I can't say a lot of the time, because I do know there are select companies who do give reimbursement for college. They pay you, and then they pay for you to go to college as well. See. Okay, so Juanis comes back. She says, that's still lying, and yes, it's best to have your friend pretend to be your manager. Now, you don't need to have them pretend to be your manager. See, so that was the thing. He says, can I contact your previous employer? And then, okay, cool. I can give you some references to people who I've worked with before. Not really a lie. And if they say, hey, I want to speak to your manager, I would just go ahead. I mean, I have had several managers in my life, so I could just pick a different manager, one that I actually did have a good relationship with. And then let's see, Tim the developer says, there's no point in lying. You will be held to the knowledge base if you get the job, so why lie? I agree. And then let's see. And then shout out to Diva Delish. Says, I'd never tell a future employer that I was fired. I'd say I was laid off, and I never give the direct number to the manager. I just give number for employee verification. Well, yeah, I mean, let's say that you worked at this particular company before. You apply for a job, got the interview, say that I worked at a particular company. Let's say I used to work at Home Depot, and then in my situation, I had a good relationship with my manager, so I could put down my manager. but they did not sit right there and ask me particularly, hey, I need to speak to your manager. They would ask me, hey, do you have references, or do you have a recommendation? Those are some things that I've been asked particularly. Now, if they ask you for a manager, then it's kind of like, in this instance, I'll probably give the phone number to the company. Or if you don't have the manager's phone number, you can't really give it. That's like if you have a bad relationship with the manager and you don't have their phone number, that's not really lying. It's kind of like, hey, I can give you the company's website number or something like that, or somebody I've worked with before. Those would probably be way better, because I don't understand why you would have your manager's number and then you have a bad relationship with them if you're never going to use them for a reference anyway. So it doesn't really make much sense to even entertain the manager question. If you say, hey, I can't get in contact with my previous manager, I can get in contact with people I've worked with before who I have had a good working relationship with. So to be honest with you, I have never had an instance where I've had a bad manager that I could not call back. Even if I did not like a previous manager, I still had a relationship with them to where I could give them a phone call for a reference if I needed to. But I know not everybody's in that particular situation. All right, so let's move on to the next topic. So let's see. Not next topic, but the next tweet. Here we go. All right, so we have another person here. So going back to the previous tweet that we looked at before, so somebody else responded to it. So it says, y'all, do not lie on your resume about a degree. You might get away with it in some jobs, but if you get found out, oh boy. In the legal world, it's not like Suits. They usually require official transcripts, even though you also have to give your bar license number. So this is in legal, which de facto shows you have at least 2 degrees, prerequisite to a law license in most states. Just don't lie. So shout out to lead attorney. He would probably know about this as well. He says, sorry, but if anyone is serving you boss babe content that tells you to make up a degree for your resume, unfollow them forever. All right, so this is also to point this out. The person here, they are somebody who gives out advice on getting positions. So as you can see, she does say that she has gotten a lot of people hired on with different jobs, 75,000 plus jobs. Well, like the income, they went up by 75,000 more dollars than their previous salary. And she has a lot of people who are saying, hey, they were able to, like this one example. I ended up getting a job that almost tripled my salary from 48,000 to 141,000 with a 30,000 sign-on bonus. Thanks again for calling my resume trash and sending me a new one. So you can see here is in one breath she's telling you to lie on your resume about having a degree, and then now she has people who are making this much. So this $141,000 total compensation. And then she says, oh yeah, your resume is trash. I hope that she isn't telling them to then lie on their resume as well. Because you don't need to lie. You may be able to tailor a resume, but you don't necessarily need to sit up there and lie. Okay, so let's see. I got one more video I want to share with you guys. I want to drop the link to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the link. Let me go to my screen right quick. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the Zoom link. If anybody wants to call in about this topic before it gets too late. And we're close to the hour mark right here. Okay. And then let me go on to the video back when I did this. So let's see. Okay, I'm dropping the link now for everybody. Please let me know if you guys are able to see it in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you are able to see the link. All right, while I do that, so I just dropped the link. Let me know if you see it, and then also let me go through the comments real quick. All right, so Jawanda Washington says, "Well, of course, I would use a bad manager as a reference." I think she says she would not. Well, let's say, well, of course, I would use a bad manager as a reference, but most ask for the previous manager, and in that case, I would even pretend to be my own manager. That's best. I meant I would not. See there, I would not use my previous manager if that manager was bad. I would never use a false degree or certification or knowledge. Okay. So, and then let's just say that, hey, I don't have my manager's phone number. I have another colleague's phone number. Just do that. I think that would probably be best if you were, instead of saying I'm going to use my manager, my previous manager, just say that you have a colleague that you use. I don't have that manager's phone number or contact information anymore, which I don't know why you would have their information if you found them to be a bad manager. All right, so I will play this right quick, and then we can go ahead and get into and see if anybody joins the link. Nobody joins the link, then we can go ahead and call it a night. Let's see. So this is the video from Tech Bros versus Manosphere.
Hey Mike, you speak French, right? I mean, you said in your CV that you can. Oh, that's right. Bonjour. You know I don't understand it. Okay. Anyway, there's this new guy we were trying to hire. He said he can speak French too. It's on the CV. So I need you guys to communicate.
Are you playing? What type of playing?
Come. Nice. So this is Mr. Mike. Go on. Bonjour. Skeske robo.
Ah!
Robo skeske robo.
All right, so let me go ahead. I got some people in the back. Let me let y'all up right quick. So I got my boy Gabe A up in the building. Let me see if he is able to hear us. Hey, Gabe, can you hear us? You're on mute.
Oh,
there we go.
yeah, man. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. How are you doing?
Man, good, man. Chilling. This is, this subject is my specialty, man. So, about people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, Gabe. So what did you think? I don't know if you were here when I was going through the initial tweet that started this topic. But essentially, the recruiter was saying, well, not the recruiter, the lady on Twitter who was helping people get the positions, such as a $75,000 plus bump in their income, telling them to lie on their resumes. What do you think about that?
Man, it's like what I encounter a lot is in the social media sphere and how people are trying to get jobs and get on with the latest trends is that people will do everything except for the work that's necessary to get the role. They find every way around getting the education, getting the certification, getting the experience. They do everything except for actually the thing that you need to get the role. And it's like, it almost seems like an era of it's like an era of privilege, or they think that they should have something because they feel like, why should I have to do that? Right? It's like this attitude, like I could finesse my way to the top because I deserve it. So it's like some entitlement that's there for some reason. Like, I should have this role. I mean, I didn't go to school for it. I mean, I didn't get the degrees. I didn't get the certification. I didn't get the experience. I didn't do the labs or anything. But I'm about to find a way around the requirements. So, I think that it's just, I think it does more harm than good. I think it does more harm than good. And I'll pause there. I know that was a lot.
All right, I understand, man. And so a lot of the people disagreed with what she said, and for good reason, because a lot of people who are in these professions, especially in tech, they look at it as, hey, why would you sit up there and lie? Because you have people who have no degree and can still get the position, or they have like a boot camp or something like that. Just go ahead and tell the truth. Right. Because like even in one of the comments, they said on this video, they said that, hey, I have some people who are able to get a CISO position, but they just had experience and certifications. So
that's the thing. Like maximize what you do have rather than lying about and finessing on the things that you don't have. I think that's really important. And even with a lot of these boot camps, right? A lot of them now, they come with like career coaching or some type of job placement features to these programs. So it's like, even if people do get into these programs, it's like they'll still have the ability to be placed in a role, and those are services offered by those boot camp organizations. So I don't think it's any excuse these days, even seeing that these boot camps are now offering job placement features. So
exactly. Yeah. And then even with this, and looking at the way that she downplayed having a degree, you went through 4 years of college, sometimes 5 years of college, like I did, and you put your best foot forward. You went through all that. Shoot. Yeah, you took a victory lap. That's what it was. Yeah. And you went through it, and then they say it's all a little funky resume, but like you put in the work for it, and they call you an elitist for saying that, hey, you need to have a qualification at least to be able to get this position. And then let's not even talk about like you're signing a legal document saying that you have a degree. So if you sit up there lying about it, you're pretty much breaking a legal contract.
Yes, you are. Like every single job application makes you sign something to say, hey, all the information that I have provided is truthful. You have to sign it at the end, right? So not only is it a reputation thing, but I mean, it just depends on the organization if they want to take legal action against you if they find out that it's untrue, the things that you're lying about. But I would say this also, B2B. I think most people don't get found out. I would say that. I don't think most people get found out about when they've lied about degrees or things, right? But I do think that at the same time, it limits people to the opportunities that they can pursue. Because it's like, you got to carry that lie everywhere. You got to carry that lie from this job to that job to this job. So, you got to keep on going. Like, you got to keep on keeping that lie fresh. Got to freshen that lie up with every iteration or every job role that you go after. And, I bet it's tiring. I bet it's tiring always telling somebody something that is not true about your experience or your qualifications.
Right. Gabe, I have a quick story and want to see what you think about it. Another reason as to why people should not lie on their resume is because, so back when I was applying for jobs and I was sitting up here saying, okay, well, when I went to school, I did have my degree, but I took classes and learned about specific topics. So
Okay.
I learned about JavaScript. I learned about Java. I learned about Python and such languages, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my expertise was not all the way there to where I could sit up there and answer any question about all these different programming languages. I took a class in it.
Yeah, you
I
didn't have
may
a working
used it.
knowledge of it.
Exactly. And this was earlier on in my career. One thing is that I went into, this is like my worst interview I've ever did. I went into the interview and they sit up there and asked me every single thing on my resume. So it went from JavaScript, and they asked me several different questions about JavaScript. And then I was like, okay, I can kind of answer this. I couldn't answer everything. Then ask me about Java. So every single thing that you put on your resume, they, just like in that other video, they will test you on if they are not sure about your qualifications. And obviously I did not get that position simply because what they were asking me was just so broad that it wasn't specialized. That's the reason why it didn't go well for me, right? Even though I'm not technically lying by saying that I learned about it, but I should have said that, hey, my expertise level, I am familiar with this. I have worked with this.
Yeah.
So tailoring it.
They thought they got a unicorn. They thought they got somebody that knew every single one of them languages, and they like, let's see if they really do know all this stuff. Because if you did that, they probably thought that they was getting a good bang for their buck. So
exactly, and they probably would have gave me like 65,000.
Right,
you would have known everything.
Right. So you know.
And so we got Maximilian up here. So Gabe, did you want to stay up here, or did you have anything else to say?
I don't have nothing else to say. No, I just wanted to comment on that. So
all right. Appreciate you, Gabe.
All right, man. Yep, peace.
All right. Maximilian, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, how's it going, BTB? You hear me all right?
Yes, sir. Been good. How you been?
Good. Yeah, I caught the last half of the show. Great stuff as usual. Yeah, just want to comment a little bit on like lying on the resume and stuff. I think we talked about it a little bit before, like on previous shows, but I can't stress this enough. I guess I gotta repeat it because people are still doing it out there in the wild. I feel like credentials, never lie about the credentials. Like, don't lie about the degree. Don't lie about like your experience, because if it's an actually like reputable company, like they're probably going to check that stuff like before they finish the offer letter. Like I've been at 3 companies, and each one at least did a background check where they'll at least like call your previous employer and like confirm that you actually worked at the place and for how many years that you said you worked there, right? And so it's really interesting that like I almost like don't believe some of these stories about people say like, oh yeah, I lied on resume and like I got the job and like they're paying me like so much now. Like either like that company is like a startup and they didn't really did their due diligence on who they're hiring, and they're going to be found out to be like frauds eventually, or something along those lines, because pretty much every company I work for, they at least did the bare minimum background check on your experience and your degree. And when they find out that you lied, like in most cases, you're going to get your offer recited. Like they're going to take that offer away. That's what I've seen before.
Very true. So yeah, that is so true that these companies will rescind your resume or your job offer. They will rescind it if they do find out that you're lying about it. Overall, in the long run, it doesn't really make much sense to lie, simply because the risk versus reward doesn't really match up. You might as well have just gone ahead and got the skills that they were looking for, or gotten some help with tailoring your resume for positions that you can apply for. So when people say,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. When people say to lie on it, I mean, like, you may be able to tailor your resume, you may be able to stretch it and say, maybe you worked for a third-party contractor company or a recruiting company, and then they contracted you out to a particular company, and you say, oh, I work for the company that I had a contract with, which is true. You did work for that company, but the person who was paying you was the recruitment company, that's not necessarily a lie. It's more so just saying, hey, I worked at this company for such and such amount of time, let's say 6 months, for a contract to hire. And then if they ask you, hey, since you had a contract with this company, who was the contracting company, you can then expound upon it. But you're not really lying by saying something like that. And then, yeah, so what's going on right now is, I think that when we look at social media, TikTok and YouTube, they do not want you to have a competitive advantage over other people. You have people who do have actual degrees, actual experience, who can talk shop, and they sit there and study and they know everything about their industry. And you're going against them lying, and you may not even know everything, who or can't even speak to the particular role with any kind of confidence because you don't really know. And Maximilian, so you've worked with people in your company before, and they have, let's say that somebody has like a master's degree or a PhD. These people, you can talk to them all day long about their position, or you can talk to them about the industry because they're passionate about it, right?
Right,
like
that's
they're
right.
they're like a wealth of information.
Right, exactly.
And these type of people, they deserve like the paycheck that they got. They went through all of that years of experience, all those years of schooling. Some people went to school for like 12 years. And then just like I had a previous, I don't know if you saw this one, Maximilian. I had a previous live stream talking about fake degrees. Somebody was giving out fake degrees or degrees that had nothing to do with any particular industry. And then they would not be able to help people get a job. And people were paying for it, like thousands of dollars for it. So you can't bring up a fake degree compared to a real degree that you can verify, and then try and beat them out. And I think that in social media, they're trying to make people as uncompetitive as they possibly can to get as many followers as they possibly can. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents. What do you think about the Maximilian?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said, and I'm gonna have to throw out the G word. I feel like it's a big grift. It's a big grift out there. It's easier to sell what you're selling if you're promising that people don't have to do the work they have to do to, um, you know, get the job and get the paycheck that they want. If you can, tell them, hey, you can just lie and you don't actually have to go through that hard work of going, getting your degree or going through a boot camp or things like that. You can get this job. So that's exactly. I mean, that's especially that with what you showed me in the video. That woman, talking about how she's like, she's basically selling her resume, building services, right? Like that's basically what she does, and so that's how you sell it. I mean, she's not going to sell as many if she's telling them, "Hey, go get your degree, and then I'll look at your resume." No, she's going to sell way more if she can tell them, "Hey, you can just lie and get this job." But yeah, it's really sad though because I mean, imagine a company who doesn't do their due diligence and kind of, hire somebody without confirming their credentials. That's probably very likely a startup company, a company that maybe doesn't have as many resources to do those things, like do a background check through HireRight. That HireRight is like a background check service, and there's plenty of other ones. Um, you know, in that case, so imagine you're a startup and you hired this, maybe she's like a senior software engineer and she claims to have all this experience and you expect her to, build your app from the ground up. She's going to be found out to be a fraud really like very quickly because, in a small company, you have to wear so many hats and things move so quick. It's not like a big company where you can kind of like be a cog in the machine and kind of like stay in the background while your teammates do the work. No, if you lie on your resume and it's a small company, you only have a few weeks at that job before they figure out something's up. and ChatGPT can only help you so much.
Exactly. People keep saying that ChatGPT is going to replace all these engineers and replace all these jobs, and ChatGPT is just a tool. You're not going to have people just being able to use ChatGPT only and then being able to replace all these jobs. You still need to be able to hire experienced engineers to be able to speak with the product owners and speak with the BAs, the business analysts, and then be able to speak with other engineers to be able to deliver a particular product. You can't just sit up there and lie about it. So yeah, overall, and then one more thing I wanted to point out, when you bring up a good point, Maximilian, about the resume writing business that she may have. I think she may do consultations or something like that. I don't really know much about her, but when she brings this up and says that, yeah, I helped such and such get this position, and then later on they say, oh yeah, I tell people to lie on the resume all the time. You should always lie on your resume, or something along that line. That is making it believe like, okay, did you get this person a position by telling them to lie on their resume? Now she's kind of diluting the industry with people who may have lied on their resumes or may feel like that's a good thing to do, when there are thousands of people trying to get these positions, and you're just sitting there lying and getting over on so many other people. And just like how you said, if you do get the position, and people in tech know that they do not have training. A good majority of these companies do not train you, and they do not want to train you, which is why they want you to have the degree, why they want you to have the experience, because they don't want to have to spend time teaching you how to do the job. For some other kind of industry, maybe they'll let you like try to figure it out. But tech, they do. At least my experience and the people experience I spoke with, they don't hold your hand when you start first getting the job. I remember the first week I started at both of at pretty much in every single one of my positions. The first week they gave me my laptop, and then I got my laptop and I got my first assignment. And the second week came up, and I remember one of my managers, my old manager, said, hey, you know what? We gave you this task to do last week. You don't need to hurry up. And it was just Tuesday. Just Tuesday on the second week, he said I was taking too long.
Yep.
So, yeah, Maximilian. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. They're in for a rude awakening if they think they're gonna just be able to lie and and keep that job. Even if they get in and slip through the gates, it's gonna be really difficult to keep the job. And some people, maybe they got the work ethic. Maybe they can figure it out once they're in it. But let's be honest, if they're trying to lie on the resume, that's a bit of an indication of how strong their work ethic is, and yeah, it might not end well for them at all. I think, and sorry, but not to change topics, but I think previously in the stream, you were watching the Joshua Food video. What was his opinion? Because I don't think I've seen that video. I'm familiar with Joshua Food, but I didn't catch that video.
Right. Yeah. So for that video, so what he was saying was, he was saying to lie on your resume, and he had this adversarial tone between him or the person who was applying for the position and the company, the corporation, saying that the corporation is always bad because they may look at you having a job gap. They may look at you having like illness or something like that. It may discriminate against you in some way to say that they're not going to give you a position. So you might as well lie on your resume or your LinkedIn and say that you still work at a particular company, because it's easier to get a job while you have a job. Well, in actuality, I explained, and then also another one of his points was that you may have had a bad manager in the past, and since you've had a bad manager, you cannot use your manager. But in actuality, you can use a reference. Say, hey, I don't have my manager's contact information, but I do have a previous colleague I've worked with before who had a good rapport with. who could speak to my character and then also confirm that I worked in that particular company, which I have been asked several times to be a reference before, and know that it helps you to be able to get a position with the company. So I pretty much explained away a lot of the excuses that he used by saying if you do have a job gap, why not just ask somebody you've worked with previously to get a position, and then if you can't use your manager, ask somebody else to give you a reference as well. So yeah, those are some of the things that I kind of brought up in that video and what his standpoint on it was. He's in favor of lying, and he has 2 videos where he tells you to lie on your resume, when in actuality, it really doesn't serve you any benefit to lie when you have the risk of being found out that you lied.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That actually doesn't surprise me. Actually, that's his opinion because I get a sense from I've seen previous videos from him, and yeah, like you said, he's very adversarial. He almost, I would say, almost bitter to certain companies, and that kind of strongly impacts his opinions on things like this. Yeah, that's interesting because like even in the case of like say you have like a low employment gap, I would say since COVID, I really don't think employment gaps aren't as big of a deal as people think. That's a question I see a lot on like like Reddit and like different forums. Like people always like really concerned about like, oh, I have like a 2-3 month employment gap. And in the case of especially after COVID, like I said, like I feel like a 2 to 3, 4 month gap isn't a huge deal. Now maybe if it's like a year or two, maybe. But I would also argue that like even in the case that like you do have a 2 month gap, like maybe like that's so negligible. I doubt that's like a company would care about that at this point. Because I mean you have to think even in the tech industry, like even when you are searching for a job, it might take like 2 to 3 weeks to get through the interview process, and so like maybe in the past, like a little gap in your resume was a big deal, but I feel like at this point, like I can't imagine it being a huge impact.
Yeah, Maximilian. So there's a lot of different companies out here, especially with people working remote, that will still hire you with a job gap, 2 to 3 months. And let me say this, right? I do know some people. I do know a guy. He pretty much had no responsibilities really. He's a guy who quit my previous job, and he took off. I think it was 6 months. He took off from working because he wanted to get really good at playing Call of Duty, and he quit it so that way he could just play the game because the new Call of Duty at that time it just came out. So he had saved up just enough money to where he didn't need to work for like a whole 6 month supply, and then he just get another job. Now, of course, right, and I hate to bring this up, but in our community, it may take us 3 to 6 months to be able to get a position, but people like that who could just take off 6 months, they do not have the same struggle that we may have because they may have other connections. They can get another job really easily. They have the money saved up. They may have the hookup from maybe their parents or a friend or something like that in the industry who may just be able to make a phone call and get them a position. So those are some other things that people don't bring up, especially on social media, where they say they tell you you don't need a degree, you don't need a lot of other these qualifications. They don't really bring up having a good network, and then they expect you to go against somebody who has all those other things, and you're going up against them with a fake degree, or a fake resume. So they're pretty much just setting you up for failure because you won't be able to beat out the stiff competition that there is. But yeah, Maximilian, did you have anything more that you wanted to say about the topic?
No, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
man.
nailed it.
Maximilian, I do appreciate you for coming up, man.
Yep. You gotta stream more, man. I've been missing these.
Yeah, man. I got to stream more. I gotta come up with some more videos. But I've been kind of just focusing in on my career as well and in life. So
yeah, it seems good.
That's great, man. All right, so I appreciate you for coming up, Maximilian.
Thanks for having me. Have a good night. See you.
All right, you too, man. All right, so that is all of my people who came up. Thank you so much to Maximilian and also Gabe A. Really do appreciate you guys for coming up. All right, so let's see. Before we close out, let me go ahead and read the comments right quick. T. Riddler says, line in profession where you have to be licensed is completely different than line on your resume for a tech job. Where they will provide you the resources to fill in the gap. So, and the thing is that with a tech job, I know for certain, or let's say this right, in my experience, and a lot of other people's experiences, these tech jobs will not hold your hand to be able to get you a position, right? You do need to have some sort of qualifications, because imagine you are, I think somebody earlier said, I think it was, let me see who it was, who said something about people who had a CISO. So see, Sammy Ivory's 86 says they know people who had a C-level executive position, and they didn't have a degree, but they had other qualifications to kind of make up for it. In this, they probably had to work even harder without the qualifications to be able to get this, because these positions, C-level, like a CISO of a company, is an extremely important role. You can't just give out that type of position. So even though they brought up that they didn't have a degree, they had other things as well, and probably so much experience and so many connections that were able to get them to become a CISO. And then another thing that comes up, you may not have a degree at that moment, but if you want to be able to grow within a company, to be able to grow and grow up the ladder, a lot of companies will pay for you to get a degree. And then a lot of companies will insist, if you are to go up the ladder, let's say a lot of these CEOs, they will pretty much make them get a degree, right? A lot of the CEOs have business degrees as well. A lot of them have business degrees. A lot of them have engineering degrees. So you may get up the ladder faster and be able to make even more money if you just go ahead and get the qualifications. Let's see. Sammy Ivory comes back and says decades of experience, something that you just can't replace. And then so Tangeray 10 Gin and Tonic, shout out to you. Thanks so much for tuning in. For the Billions, glad to see you back on YouTube. I used to watch a lot of your content. I appreciate you. I'm pretty much trying to start over a lot of my content as well. I was just noticing I had to focus in on a particular niche. At one point I was just kind of talking about different things, and I wanted to kind of just focus in on something I can talk to you guys about for long periods of time. Let's see. Okay, so these may be some ATS systems. So it says Sterling BGC and Higher Right BGC will find out if you're lying, and many others. And then, I have been working a lot more often. All right, so Joanna Washington says, well, I did lose a job due to an employment gap of a year. So the next time I lied and got the job. And see, and it may work. I don't know what lie, but you did say earlier that you will never lie about a degree, and that's kind of what we're kind of getting towards more so. Like, yeah, you may lie about a job gap, but I think it's still lying. You might as well tell the truth, but it's not as bad as saying that you're not qualified at all. You're not qualified at all and saying that you are. So that's more so what we're trying to hone in on, is that when the person's teaching people to get their degrees, teaching people to get their resumes in to get a job, and then when they apply for the job, they say that they have a degree and they have no degree. All right, so that is something that you do not want to do, because it will turn out bad for you. Right? You can't just sit up there and say that you have a qualification that you do not have. Like, they say you have a certification. Easy to find out that you don't have a certification, because they can just look up the number, or they can ask you for information about this certification. No reason to lie about it. All right. So with that being said, guys, that's all the comments that I see. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Shout out to my great panel that I had come up, Gabe A and Maximilian. Really do appreciate you for coming up. Shout out to all the people who are watching the live stream right now, and also the people who are watching the replay. Really do appreciate you all for tuning in. I will be coming out with some more videos, so please stay tuned. With that being said, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I really do appreciate it. And I will see you all on the next video.